Coming up on this episode of the Curt Podcast is Victory Friday as I recap the Lions' victory on opening night in the NFL versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's time to start the show. What up, dude? Welcome to the Curt Podcast, your trusted source for Detroit Lions news and rumors. I'm your host, Curt Steele. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with fellow Lions fans just like yourself. Follow me on your favorite social media platforms and visit CurtSteele.com. Today is Friday, September 8th, 2023. Shout out to my family over at Lions Nation Unite. Now, before I get to the game, I know I haven't been on for a while. I was dealing with some health issues, some migraines. I couldn't record, couldn't focus, couldn't be with the lights, but thanks for coming back. And I will be here with you for the rest of the season. Now, let's get into this game, man. Y'all know we all heard it from fans of other teams. Fans just don't like us. Hey, the Lions aren't ready for the champs in the era ahead. Then it was you guys caught a break with Chris Jones sitting out, but you'll still lose. Kelsey's injury, you guys will still lose. And even the national broadcast team, except for I think like two guys, which was Rodney Harrison and the former coach, they picked the Lions. Everyone else picked the Kansas City Chiefs and said it didn't matter, too big of a stage. And I got to go with my man Dan Campbell's quote from last year. I don't care if you have one ass cheek and three toes, I will beat your ass. Come on now. The Lions did not play like it was a too big of a stage. You know, they kept it close for most of the game and they were just resilient. But I have to say, I can't sugarcoat it. Wasn't a pretty game on either side of the ball for the entire game. Plenty of mistakes to clean up, but it was a team victory. So let's get to what got the offense going. I'll talk about defense later on in the show. But that play that got the team going was the fake punt. Inside their own 20, backed up. You got my man, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, got the handoff, got pushed by the offensive line, and got the first down. And that really kickstarted the Lions offense in the first half, and they needed it. With that first drive, kind of really just not really getting some momentum going. But that fake punt really got a jolt of energy for the offense, and that led to that St. Brown touchdown in the first half. Love that drive. Good mix of run and pass, and the Lions play action was the strength of that drive. A lot of crossers, but it's predicated on the play action, and we'll talk about a lot about this game. But the offense was stagnant for most of the game, man. Tons of 3 and outs. It was when it counted, though, when it really counted, I like how Ben Johnson ran the ball effectively in that second half. And they ran the ball when they wanted to run the ball, man. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs could run the ball. And you can get behind that big offensive line. Like we all know that Chris Jones was not in there to kind of eat up some space. So I like the fact that Ben Johnson said, screw it. Let's go ahead and run the ball. And the 2 drives where the offense actually scored touchdowns, it was their winning formula from last year. Run the ball, eat up the clock, sustain drives, and keep the other offense off the field. And in that drive in the fourth quarter, I love the way that Goff commanded the offense. You know, he didn't have a great day, but he was efficient and he did not turn the ball over. Again, I love his ball security. He'll throw the ball away instead of turning it over. And I like what I'm seeing with him in that aspect. Like, he didn't even have a pass that was really close to being intercepted. You know what I'm saying? A couple batted balls down here and there, but most of his passes were, crisp and clean. His completions were on point, on target. I like the way he commanded the offense. And that fourth quarter scoring drive, man, they just basically just lined it up and ran that ball down the throats of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was nice to see that and what Ben Johnson, how he called that final drive, that scoring drive, and then even the final drive where they just kind of lined it up and just ran the ball down the throat to run the clock out. The 8-yard touchdown ran by Demo was like right up the middle. They can kind of pull and shout out to rookie tight end Sam Laporta had a hell of a block on that scoring touchdown. I mean, he pulled over and just laid somebody out. So I'm like, okay, you're okay, rookie. And that was one of the things that people were kind of hesitant about him as a draft pick because they really wasn't sure of his blocking ability. But he showed it on that play. He showed it multiple times during the game. Some things to kind of worry about, and I think it'll be fixed though. The Jones to Goff connection was just off, off. And that to me, I think that kind of contributed to the fact that they didn't really play a lot together during this offseason. That they practiced together, but they didn't get any times as reps on the field in games type situations. Marvin had 2 completions on 6 targets for 8 yards, and his first career fumble down in near the red zone. Oh man, that really broke my heart because I know that Marvin Jones is a better player than that. You know, we'll talk about how old he is, but Marvin Jones doesn't play his age, and I just think that it just takes some familiarity to get, them on the same page. You got to look at the first part of last season. DJ Chark kind of struggled at the beginning of last season too. So once they get familiar, I think that they'll be okay with Jared Goff and Marvin Jones Jr. back here in Detroit. But Goff was able to keep the offense going, though, you know, with the Whoopie. Man, the Whoopie makes some big plays, man. That nice big gain that led to the Montgomery touchdown. And the Sun guy was going Sun guy, man. St. Brown, he got his yards, even though you look at what the Chiefs did. They did a lot of bracketing of him to kind of keep him in check. But he got his touchdown. He's got his yards. He's got some good catches. And the guy's just a beast out there in the field. Great route running by St. Brown and Josh Reynolds and getting himself open. Good play by Sam Laporta. He had some good catches as well as Brock Wright. Can't forget about him. So they used the tight ends effectively. There wasn't a lot, but it was enough when they needed to move the chains. They got the tight ends involved in the offense. I like the fact that they were able to make some catches. You had Sam Laporta for 5 catches, 39 yards, and then you had Brock Wright with 2 catches for 17 yards. But it wasn't really for me, and both of them caught all of their targets. Sam Laporta was targeted 5 times with 5 catches, and Brock Wright was targeted 2 times with 2 catches. But the thing with them, it was like the timing of the plays for the tight ends where it was a crucial play, you needed to move the ball, and Jared Goff was able to find those guys and move the chains or at least get some good yardage. So shout out to the tight end of the group and those two, the young fella of Sam Laporta. He's making his presence felt on this roster, and I think he's going to have some bigger games down the line. For the offensive line, man, I think they kept Jared Goff clean. He got sacked once, and I think there was a cover sack. They just didn't have anybody open. But that offensive line, they kept him clean, and they flexed their muscles in the run game, man. I would say the one complaint I have about this game on the offensive side of the ball is that they didn't run it enough. They just ran the ball more. At the beginning of the second half, I was like, "This is run the ball." I mean, if you got the stop once we tied the game after the interception, I'm like, "Just run the ball." It was effective, and you can see it. And Goff is great at play action, but you have to run the ball. The threat of the run has to enter the minds of the defense, and it just wasn't happening in the second and third quarter because they weren't running the ball effectively. They were just they run the ball on first down, and then they would just go to the pass game. I'm like, no, man, just run the ball, and then that will open up the play action. And it did. You look at that last drive, and those last couple of plays in the second half, like I said, that big play action pass to Josh Reynolds was predicated off. They started running the ball effectively. Gibbs does not go down. He's not, people think he's just a flash runner. He just go down easy. he'll lower his shoulder on somebody, and he was, that one run he had, I think it was like 18 yards, and the guy, excuse me, no, I don't think it was over 20, and I mean the guy, he just kind of just broke off a tackle and just kept running down the sidelines. I mean, what can you say about the young fella? Gibbs is going to be good. He's so fast, and as they get him more into the offense, man, I think a big season is going to come for the young fella, because you look at his yards in this game. Jahmyr Gibbs had 18 yards receiving, and he had another 42 on the ground. Man, that is pretty good for the way they use him, making the way that the offense was pretty much stagnant. But you look at that, I'm liking what I'm seeing. He had 7 carries for 42 yards, 6 yards a carry. Wow, that's crazy. And the run was 18 yards. That was a long run. But I think overall, I think it was a good showing by the offense. It could be better. It wasn't perfect, but there's some stuff to clean up. But I think, to be honest with you, I just think that the lack of playing time by the ones together, and they're playing sustained like for a whole game, that that kind of just, their rhythm wasn't there yet. But I'll take it. I'll take it. So after the break, I'll talk about how the defense played. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment. I'll hit you back as soon as I can. Hit the notification bell so you know when you're getting fresh content right here on my YouTube channel. Visit curtstill.com for more Lions content from me. You get links to my articles on Sideline Report and yardbarker.com right there on the homepage. Follow me on your favorite social media platforms like X and Facebook. You can find those links right there on the homepage of curtstill.com as well. And you can get yourself some Curt Still gear. I'm not wearing it right now just because of the fact that I just wanted to wear a Hutch jersey, because I just think Hutch had a great game. But go over to the Curt Still gear in the LNU shop. The Regal Lion is right there, man. You get yourself some Boss Up, Boss Off shirts. You get yourself some What Up Doe shirts, or the Regal Lion cap, man. So go and grab yourself some gear from the LNU shop, and the proceeds from the sales of those items help me grow the content right here on my YouTube channel. All right, so got to talk about the defense, man. The defense was the strength of the game for, I believe, for the majority of the snaps on both sides of the ball. Like, for the game, it was the defense that kind of held it down, especially after halftime. I think the worst that the defense played was in that first half, especially at that end of the first half when they gave up those 3 chunk plays. I just think they weren't ready. I really thought that Jerry Jacobs had an interception, but it wasn't. He just fit the ball in there. It was a great defense, but it's a better offense on that play. Because I can't say that Jacobs was out of position. I mean, he made a play on the ball, and you look, that was one of those plays that definitely were playing zone. But then they gave another chunk play down the sideline right after that, and they got in the end zone pretty fast to end up being going up 7 at halftime. But the defense turned the corner. I would say this: when I'm watching the game, and you can hear it from Chris Collinsworth and a couple other people, the amount of zone that the Lions played. Aaron Glenn played a lot of zone versus KC. I think it fit the game because of the fact that they didn't have Travis Kelce, where you probably would have played zone underneath on Kelce and then man on the outside. But if you look at it, they didn't have Kelce, so what did they do? They played zone most of the game, where you didn't give Mahomes a lot of windows to throw through. And you saw some miscommunications, like I said, on that touchdown in the first half. Even Gardner Johnson on the touchdown, the first touchdown of the game that they gave up, he was like, it was a lack of communication. He said, "My bad." And I think that, like I said, with the offense, I think it was a lack of playing time. When you saw them play, saw those the ones with those extended practices, or kind of like that. What do you call that? The scrimmage that they had, or the offense versus defense scrimmage. But I think it's the game reps are just different in the NFL, and as the game went along, you can see them communicating more, and you can see the defense just starting to play better, and the defense didn't allow the Chiefs to convert a third down in the second half. Like they went 0 for 7 on third down in the second half. That's pretty big. I mean, they scored 2 field goals. Well, one they got some good field position, and then the other, it was just like, they had to gain yards on first and second down, but it came to third down, the Lions were shutting them down. 2 rookies that made some big plays for the defense, especially coming out of halftime. Jack Campbell made that diving pass breakup. Captain Jack did his thing as that second drive. And then on the next play was the 50-yard pick six by my man. I'm calling him the steal of the draft, man. Brian Branch. That dude is him. I mean, for real, for real. Let's look at his stats for the game. Brian Branch, man, that dude was playing. He had 3 tackles. 2 of them were solo tackles. He had a pass defense and a pick six doing his thing. I mean, Jack Campbell, he had 2 solo tackles and a pass defense. These young fellas out there playing. I mean, the leaders of the defense were the 2 starting linebackers, though. Both of them had 6 tackles apiece, and that's Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes. These guys were flying all over the place, sideline to sideline. Anzalone had of his 6 tackles, he had 5 solo. Barnes had 4 solo tackles as well. Barnes had a tackle for loss. Anzalone had a pass defense. We haven't seen the defense and the linebackers be, quote unquote, the leaders of the defense in a minute. Now they controlled that middle of the field. You look at the secondary, how they played, the defensive line, man. Okay, let's just call it what it is. The Chiefs, Jawaan Taylor, was allowed to false start and line up in an illegal formation the entire game. They didn't call it, except for it took him down to what do you call it? It took him with 2 minutes left in the game to call him on a false start when he was false starting the whole game. They weren't able to. The defensive line wasn't able to sack Mahomes, and that was probably really one of the reasons is because of the fact that they were allowed to. Taylor was allowed to false start the whole game, and Hutch was able to kind of combat that with Hutch. They kind of moved him inside, and he was able to still get pressure on Mahomes. He was in his face all game long. They had 8 quarterback pressures. Aiden Hutchinson had 3 quarterback hits. I mean, he had 4 tackles himself, 3 of them solo, but he definitely had 3 quarterback hits on Patrick Mahomes, and I think that was a gift from the refs. That was terrible officiating when it came to the defensive line for the Lions going up against a stacked deck, because you have Jawaan Taylor on every passing play. He's false starting and he's lining up illegally. Now, Houston got some pressure as well. Now, he got a quarterback hit. I think there were several missed holding calls on the offensive line for the Chiefs. One was egregious. You look at the center just reached out and just grabbed a handful of Lee McNeil's jersey on one play. I believe Charles Harris just got tackled. There's just a lot of missed calls. But the one thing I will say, if you look at the Lions teams from the past, they would have just been complaining, and it would have changed the complexion of the game. They would have ended up losing and then blaming it on the refs. What did they do? They just kept playing. Next play, don't worry about what happened in the previous play. Just go and play the next play. And that led to them actually, really getting a victory. The defense made some big stops down that final, couple drives by the Chiefs. They were aided by some drops. Can't say that they didn't have any drops, because they did. And they were wide open drops. Kadarius Toney had a couple just wide open drops. Some were coverage where they had to kind of try to dump it off, and maybe, pass was coming out too hot, and maybe lack of playing time with Patrick Mahomes. You got to look at the offense and the defense for the Kansas City Chiefs is a little bit different, especially the offensive line is pretty much new, two new offensive tackles. And you got the one guy, Donovan Smith, got called for holding. He had issues with that last year, and down there in Tampa. And Jawaan Taylor was just absolutely just able to do what he wanted to do, and just false start and line up illegally the whole game. The league had to take a look at that. But I will say this: the speed and aggressiveness that was the difference for me for Aaron Glenn's group. They showed up versus the defending champion, and they kept Detroit in the game, especially during that lull for the offense during the second and third quarters, where the Lions weren't moving the ball, but the defense kept them in the game. And then they got that big interception by Brian Branch for the pick six, and that put the Lions right back into the game. Overall, I think it was, a good game by the defense. It's plenty of stuff to clean up, but they took advantage of the fact that they didn't have to, with Kelsey being out, they were able to adjust their coverage and really much play a really good, really good game. I mean, even in coverage, you had the one PI on Cam Sutton. If you look at it, like Cam Sutton wasn't playing corner for most of the game. He was dropping back into coverage, and you had Kirby Joseph and playing that middle of the field, and then you had guys playing more of that zone type of deal, and it just having to work out, man. And Gardner Johnson, man, CJ Gardner Johnson is a big influence on the Lions defense, man. And it's not just his trash talking, but he keeps them motivated. But he played well. I mean, you look at how he played, man. Guy had a couple of passes, breakups, man. He had 5 tackles, and all of them were solo. And he had 2 pass breakups, and he dropped the interception late in the game. But he's walking his walk, and he's talking his talk, man. He's talking his ish. I believe that he's the best free agent signing by the Lions this offseason. He's beginning to show that. And if he continues to play the way he's playing right now, I would not be opposed to the Lions giving that dude the bag. I mean, for real, keep him in Detroit. People talk about, oh, he's kind of like Brian Branch. Why? If you got 2 players that's good at those positions, you can play him in the safety, you can play him in at corner, play him in nickel. Why would you get rid of one of them? Because if you have two is better than one. I'm just saying. I just think that Gardner Johnson, I would love to see him in Detroit if he keeps playing the way he does. God led the league in interceptions last year. Guy's a good player. He's still young, so I think he has a lot of potential to stay on this roster. He really, to be honest with you, he bumped a team captain from last year out of the lineup. Tracy Walker's a backup now because of the way that Gardner Johnson has been playing. All right, and one thing to note, and it was an issue for me when the Lions didn't bring in a kicker at the end of cuts. Riley Patterson went in and he was perfect 3 for 3 in extra points in Kansas City. That's a big deal for me because of the fact the last time we saw him on the field, missed a 53-yarder, and he missed the extra point. All right, now it's time for dessert with Curt. Sweet bits of news and notes about the Detroit Lions. One Pride showed up and showed out at Arrowhead. You can hear it in the broadcast several times, the chant of "Let's Go Lions" during the telecast. And it was undeniable that the Lions fans were in the building. You can see it when they pan the cameras out, seas of blue. You get little puddles of blue all over the stadium, and especially behind the Lions bench. Several Lions beat writers posted pictures and videos of the Pride traveling as they traveled to the game. You had tons of Lions fans. I think it was one where a first-class passenger got a chance to sing Gridiron Heroes on the microphone before the flight took off. Crazy support. And then they showed the pictures online and at the game of the Lions fan base in Ford Field watching the game. It just feels good to see the Lions fan base out there representing the One Pride. Being a fan myself, just watching and seeing what was transpiring in the stadium and at Ford Field is just great to see them represent on national TV. And the Lions supported the fans by getting the win. And that was a game where in the past regimes, the Lions probably would have lost that game with some of the miscues and the like I said, the referees, but they stuck with it. But great. And the Lions were able to celebrate with the fan base as they walked off the field, that 21-20 victory at Arrowhead, man. And that's your dessert with Curt for 8 September 2023. Thanks for joining me for today's episode of the Curt Said Podcast, your trusted source for Detroit Lions news and rumors. Hey, do me a favor. like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Hit the notification bell so you know when you're getting a fresh video right here on my YouTube channel. And for more Detroit Lions content from me, head over to curtsteele.com, where you can find links to my articles on Sideline Report and yardbarker.com right there on the homepage. You know, you always got to do your man Curt Steele one solid, whatever you're doing in life. You got to boss up, ball out, and be the best version of you that you can be. This is Curt Steele, and I will holla at you real soon.